The US President Donald Trump has delivered a strong show of support for Japan. On the second leg of his Asia tour, Trump had warm words for the country's new Prime Minister, Sanae Takaichi, who's only 1 week into her new job. The demonstrative backing for Tokyo comes ahead of a meeting scheduled later this week between Trump and China's President, Xi Jingping.
At the Akasaka Palace, Trump is welcomed with full military honors, a show of ceremony for Japan's most high-profile ally. Just days into her historic role as Japan's first female prime minister, Sanae Takaichi greeted Trump with smiles and praise as the two signed what they called the start of a golden age in U.S.-Japan relations. Agreements on minerals and rare earths aimed at reducing U.S. reliance on China.
This will be a relationship that will be stronger than ever before, and I look forward to working with you. And on behalf of our country, I want to just let you know, anytime you have any question, any doubt, anything you want, any favors you need, anything I can do to help Japan, we will be there. We are an ally at the strongest level.
Japan, meanwhile, is looking to strengthen its defense capabilities and committed to acquiring missiles from the U.S. under a contract signed last year. I am determined to restore a strong Japanese diplomacy in order to fully protect Japan's national interests. I'm ready to promote further collaboration with the U.S. to achieve a free and open Indo-Pacific. Trump and Takaichi visited the U.S. naval base in Yokosuka near Tokyo, home to the nuclear-powered aircraft carrier USS George Washington, part of the Pentagon's powerful presence in the region. As Tokyo and Washington celebrated an old alliance with a new kind of charm.
Jeffrey Hall is a lecturer at the Kanda University of International Studies in Japan and is joining us now from Tokyo. Good to see you. We've seen lots of warm praise, both sides heaping praise on each other. What do you make of the dynamic between Sanae Takaichi and Donald Trump?
Well, Anya, I think that this is a fantastic dynamic. They seem to be getting on very well, but it's mainly due to two factors. The first being that Takaichi is seen as the protege of Shinzo Abe, who is a great friend of Trump's, and Trump really sees her as someone similar to Abe. And the second factor is that Takaichi has inherited a trade deal that has already been decided. And so any implementation of this trade deal will be credited to her, even though she's been a week on the job. She's got a portfolio of policies that were probably made before last week that she can now announce as great successes, and Trump seems very pleased with it.
So it's a relationship that started off with a good foundation. However, Takaichi has said that Japan is currently facing an unprecedented severe security environment. Tell us more about Japan's security concerns right now.
Japan's security concerns are three countries. The first one and most important is China, a very large country that has a territorial dispute with Japan. The second is North Korea with its nuclear program and its missiles. And the third is Russia, which also has a territorial dispute with Japan. And Takaichi is very hawkish on security issues. You could even say she considers these countries sort of like an axis of evil, and she really wants Japan to prepare its defenses, and she wants America to be there if there is a crisis. And so this is why she's trying so hard to flatter Trump, to treat Trump so special when he's in Japan, so that he will like her. And if there is a crisis, he will come and help Japan.
And we've been hearing Trump talk up the ties, the strength of the alliance between the US and Japan. But what kind of actual security pledges is the US willing to offer Japan?
Well, as we saw in the earlier clip, he basically said, I'll do anything for you. But the US-Japan Security Treaty already promises that the United States will defend Japan's territory if Japan is attacked. But that really only depends on whether the president is willing to act if there is an attack. They could break the treaty. And so Japan's great fear for a long time, and especially when Trump is president, is that maybe if there is some kind of conflict with China over minor islands or something like that, President Trump won't be willing to risk American lives to save Japan's territory.
And then, of course, there's China. Trump will be meeting with the Chinese president, Xi Jingping, later this week. Do you think Trump will remember any of the promises he's made to Japan during his meeting with Xi?
Well, I hope he does, but I guess your guess is as good as mine, really. He probably remembers that he has a commitment to defend Japan, but he's more of a deal maker. He thinks more in pragmatic terms, economic terms. He's not someone like Takaichi who sees this kind of fundamental struggle between Japan and its democracy and China and its militaristic authoritarian system that is basically an aggressor state. So who knows what Trump will agree with China, but I don't think that he's going to necessarily throw Japan under the bus.
Jeffrey Hall from the Kanda University of International Studies in Japan. Jeffrey, thank you so much for your time today.
Thank you very much.
For more on this, we can speak now with journalist Sonja Blaschke, who's been following this story. Sonja, this was the first meeting between Prime Minister Takaichi and President Trump. How did it go?
Say exceptionally well. They really seem to have developed a rapport quite quickly, and there were a number of things that Takaichi benefited from. One is obviously the great friendship and political relationship that one of her predecessors, Shinzo Abe, had with Trump, and that came up really early. She brought it up in like the third or fourth statement to Trump in their public meeting. And the second is also she spent a few years in the 80s in the US working there. So I think she also has a really good intercultural understanding of the US, and that definitely helped. And she also understood how to appeal to Trump's ego, so to speak, with a good amount of flattery, hyperbole on both sides, actually, and also a few gifts. So I think it could have hardly gone any better, with one exception. He stopped short of calling her Sanae by her first name. So Abe reached that level. They were on Shinzo terms, so to speak. But for her, there might be one step up that we might be able to see in the future.
So the chemistry is good there. Let's talk a bit about substance. The two leaders have signed a deal on supplying rare earth minerals. What does this deal entail?
Well, at the moment, it's a bit more form than substance as well. It's more like a framework rather than a fully fleshed out deal. It's really a signal towards China showing, okay, we stand here together. We are trying to diversify our supply chains. We are looking for different sources of important materials needed for any sort of high tech these days. And the US really appreciate Japan as a sort of stable partner in the East Asian region. So this deal will further strengthen the mutual cooperation in that area.
Security is one of the main issues being discussed there, I understand. What kind of assurance does Japan want from the U.S.?
Well, Japan knows that it can't really defend itself without the US. And in an increasingly unstable and volatile environment in East Asia, a good and close relationship with the US is very necessary. I mean, they've had a strong relationship for a while, but it's gone up and down. And recently, with prime ministers changing every year, it wasn't as strong as it used to be. And I think with this visit, there's now a much better chance for Japan to sort of re-establish the close connections. There are actually over 50,000 US military personnel stationed here in Japan. So yeah, it's really important for them to make sure that the relationship is great.
Japan has pledged to invest $550 billion in the U.S. economy. Is it clear yet what sectors would benefit from that?
Again, this is also more like a framework. Some sectors have been mentioned, for example, power generating, materials, infrastructure, and also some parts of agriculture. Japan has agreed to import soy, for example, from the US. This is a particularly tricky one for Takaichi, as she has to face the national lobby here of agriculture. And I think there will also be some closer cooperation when it comes to defense and also in the area of so-called dual-use goods. So we'll have to wait a little more and see how future negotiations go. At the moment, I think it was really important to just establish the sort of personal relationship to improve later negotiations.
Sonja, thank you very much for your insights. That was journalist Sonja Blaschke in Okinawa, Japan.